I'm issuing a fraud alert. Security, remove her from my lobby.
Bank lobby, lunch rush. The manager lifts the desk phone. Security to the lobby, remove her. Red sign. Guests only. My badge sits on the counter, confiscated. I don't argue. I tap my phone and say, log everything. On-screen timer, 10, 0. Intercom chirps. Fraud alert at front desk. Camera phones rise. I ask 2 questions. Which policy applied to whom? CRM shows my appointment on record. I'm the black CEO you refused. 10 minutes later, compliance joins. Budgets freeze. Access revoked. The branch out. Roll tape. The Midtown branch hums at lunch hour. Card readers chirp. A printer spools statements behind the glass. I set my bag on the counter and presented a driver's license, the guest letter, and my appointment code. The associate scans the code, eyes narrow for a beat, then flick to the manager's desk. The manager stands, picks up a desk phone, and turns away as if I am a problem to be solved off stage. Security to the lobby, remove her. That is all she says. No greeting, no policy cited. The handset clicks into her shoulder as she points at my badge on the counter. Leave that. I keep my voice low. Which policy authorizes confiscating guest identification? She says it is a fraud prevention step. She says it is guests only today for private banking. Odd phrasing. I repeat it back. Guests only in a public bank lobby during business hours. Then I ask the only follow-up that matters. Applied to whom? No answer. She gestures again. 2 officers move closer, palms open, faces neutral. I do not argue. I pull out my phone and open the audit app. The camera frames the counter, the phone, the sign that reads guests only in laminated plastic. My finger taps record, log everything. The phrase is simple. It lets the room know the scene now has a system of record. A timer appears on screen in the edit. 10 minutes to 0. The desk printer coughs another page. A toddler drops a juice box. Small sounds that make the big thing clearer. The manager leans toward the intercom. Fraud alert at front desk. She says it twice. Heads turn. 2 customers step back. Another raises a camera. The room is not loud. The room is awake. I ask for the policy again. Which section of your SOP covers this? She answers with volume, not substance. Company rules. Special restrictions. Her words spill without numbers, forms, or sections. It is a tell. Real rules have headings and codes. Real rules can be pulled from a system. I look to the associate who scanned my code. His nameplate reads Jamal. He hovers between protocols and conscience. I catch his eye and keep it human. Sir, would you check the CRM for an appointment under the Fund Council calendar? He glances at the manager. She shakes her head. He hesitates, then taps his keyboard anyway. His face changes. He sees it. The note, the calendar invite, the contact history. He opens his mouth. The manager cuts him off with a hand chop. Not now. I speak to the officers with respect and clarity. Gentlemen, I am willing to step aside to that seating area. I am not willing to leave my identification behind. The taller officer nods. He asks the manager for direction. She says the item stays with the bank. There is a small beat where everyone absorbs the claim. It sounds official. It is not. My phone screen shows the audit session ID. I say the timestamp out loud. I say the branch address out loud. I describe the object on the counter, the phone call made, the intercom message. None of it is guesswork. It is all observable. The associate shifts again. He taps his headset and whispers to another desk, then to a supervisor channel. The manager sees it and reaches for the intercom again. Code word tone. She is trying to make the frame fit the label she chose 10 sentences ago. This is the overplay moment. If you watch long enough, bad process shows you its shape. I keep the questions measured. Which policy? Applied to whom? Is the rule documented on the customer site? Can you print it for me? She declines. She says she does not have to. The crowd draws closer, not hostile, curious. A woman in a blazer whispers that the sign was not there this morning. I repeat it for the log. Sign presence disputed by witness at time of recording. I do one more thing. The quiet thing. I tap a contact labeled Ops and Legal. The call routes to a bridge line. A voice joins and states a name, a title, and a reminder that the line is recorded. The temperature in the room drops without anyone raising a voice. I introduce myself only as a board representative here for standards. No titles, no flourish. The bridge asks for the incident summary. I read it in one breath. Badge confiscation attempted without SOP citation. Intercom fraud alert issued without verification. Appointment visible on CRM according to the associate at desk. Potential disparate enforcement of a guest restriction. The bridge thanks me. The bridge asks to speak to the manager. She hears the title on the line and forces a smile that does not reach her eyes. She starts with a claim that I refused instructions. The associate's screen beeps. A system prompt asks him to confirm the appointment status. He clicks yes. His voice is small but clear. The meeting is on the calendar. The note is on file. He says it on system. The timer ticks down to 8 minutes. You can feel where this is going and no one has to shout. 8 minutes on the clock becomes 7:30. The bridge line asks the manager a simple request. Please cite the policy number that authorizes retention of a guest's identification. She repeats house rules. The bridge asks again, slower, which section of the SOP? She glances at the officers. She says, the document is internal. The bridge responds that internal is fine, they can wait, while she pulls it up. Silence. That is answer enough. I ask Jamal to print the appointment note visible on his screen. He looks at the manager, then at me, then at the officers. He prints. The paper curls out with a timestamp, my initials, and the council fund reference code. I read the code into the mic for the log. The bridge asks him to read the last editor and edit time. He does. It matches the invite sent last week. That single fact undercuts the intercom call placed less than 2 minutes ago. A customer clears his throat and says he heard the manager call fraud. The bridge asks him to hold his statement and notes that the call is being recorded. The officers relax half a notch. They are not the target. Process is, I keep my hands visible and my tone steady. I am here for service. I am here for standards. 7 minutes. The manager attempts a new angle. She says this is a private banking day. Walk-ins are deferred. The bridge asks for the schedule that defines today as private only. She gestures toward a printed sign taped to a stand. The camera picks up the crease lines. It looks freshly printed. The bridge asks when the sign was posted and who approved it. She answers with a shrug. That is not a time or a name. I request my identification back. The taller officer nods and says the bank can verify and return it. The manager says the item stays until a regional approves release. The bridge asks which regional. She says the name quickly. The bridge replies that this regional is on the line. A second voice joins. Good afternoon. This is regional operations. Please return the identification to the guest now. The room stills. The manager hesitates, then slides the card across the counter with 2 fingers. The bridge thanks her. Now, about the fraud alert. Did you verify the CRM before using that label? She stares at the desk. The answer is no. The regional voice requests a copy of the intercom recording and the printed sign audit trail. The manager says she does not control those systems. The regional says compliance does, and they are retrieving both now. 6 minutes. I keep to the script. Which policy? Applied to whom? I ask if the sign was applied to every visitor this morning. Jamal finally speaks clearly. It was not. He reported 2 walk-ins who were served. The manager snaps his name. He does not stop. He reads from the queue log. 2 names, 2 account numbers, both non-appointments routed to private. The bridge thanks Jamal and recognizes him as a primary witness. They ask him to preserve his workstation session and not to log out. He nods. The manager starts another explanation about discretion. The regional interrupts. Discretion is not licensed to label a customer as fraud. Discretion does not override a booked appointment. She tries to pivot to concern for staff safety. The bridge acknowledges safety is paramount and asks whether there was a threat reported. There was not. 5 minutes. The regional requests, the branch roster, shift assignments, and any prior incidents involving badge retention. A new email tone hits the overhead projector near the teller line. The regional is now mirroring their screen to the branch for transparency. A spreadsheet appears. Columns, rows, timestamps. It grounds the moment. The crowd is quiet. People lean but do not talk. I state for the record that I am prepared to reschedule, and that my goal is not to embarrass anyone. I want the branch to meet standard. The regional acknowledges and says the investigation will continue after the call. For now, they are issuing 2 immediate actions. First, unlock service for all scheduled appointments for the remainder of the day. Second, freeze the branch's discretionary budget pending review of the intercom misuse and signage policy. The word freeze lands harder than any raised voice could. 4 minutes. Access alerts ping on the manager's terminal. Her dashboard dims for systems not essential to teller operations. She looks at me, then at the officers, then at Jamal. He meets her look without flinching. He has the appointment printout in a clear sleeve and places it on top of the counter like a relay baton. A small gesture, a big signal. I ask the bridge for one more step. Please preserve CCTV from the lobby cameras starting 15 minutes before the call and extending to the end of the day. The regional confirms and adds email, intercom audio, and printer job logs to the hold. Preserve all artifacts. That ends the debate. Facts will do the talking. 3 minutes. The energy has flipped without a shout, without a scene. People came for banking. They are getting a lesson in accountability. 3 minutes shifts to 2:40. A new voice joins the bridge. Crisp and dry. Compliance here. We are on record. Please state the intercom code used and the reason selected. The manager names a code that aligns with suspected fraud. Compliance asks what verification occurred prior to using that code. She says, customer behavior. Compliance asks, what behavior? Silence again. Then a reach. She says, I refused instructions. Jamal clears his throat and reads the log line. The customer requested a policy citation, requested return of identification, and remained at the counter. No refusal logged. Compliance pulls the SOP live. The projector shows the table of contents, section numbers, headings, version date. The room can see it. The manager can too. Compliance highlights the section on ID handling. It requires consent or a documented legal hold. Neither exists here. Next, the section on intercom alerts. It requires a 2-factor verification when labeling fraud. System check plus supervisor confirmation. Jamal did not confirm. He tried to check the CRM and was stopped. The projector cursor lands on the checklist. Verify account status, verify appointment, validate the name on ID matches the file. Compliance asks if any step was completed. The answer is no. 2 minutes. Compliance asks security to step back to observation only. They do. Posture neutral, hands clasped, out of the way. The tone in the lobby returns to a business day, but with eyes on the screen. The regional reads a short statement. Branch will operate, but discretionary spend and incentive pool are frozen pending review. Staff will continue serving scheduled customers. A training hold will be placed on private banking screening until recertification. The manager tries to shift blame to signage. She says corporate sent the file. Compliance asks who requested the sign, who printed it, and when it was posted. The printer job log comes up. Timestamp is 20 minutes before I arrived. The file name carries her username. The approval field is blank. Jamal looks at the floor and then back at the screen. He is not gloating. He is relieved that the system is talking. I ask one thing on the record. Please mark Jamal as a protected witness and route any retaliation claims to ethics. Compliance agrees. They add a note to his profile and an alert to HR. A subtle thing happens behind the counter. Jamal stands taller. He breathes. People notice when standards shield the person who told the truth. 1:40. The regional requests a short handoff meeting in a side office to resolve service for current customers. I accept and make clear I will not leave the lobby until the audit holds are live. Compliance confirms the legal hold has been placed on CCTV, intercom, email, printer, and CRM edit history. Preserve all artifacts. Those 3 words are the spine of this moment. The manager asks if she is suspended. No one says that. The regional says her system access will be limited to teller functions and she will not make supervisory calls until review is complete. She inhales to argue. Compliance cuts in. Your branch initiated a fraud code without verification. Your team blocked an appointment without policy support. We will determine cause and consequence after the evidence review. For now, we stop the harm. 1 minute. The crowd has dwindled back to tasks. A woman who whispered earlier steps to a teller and gets served. A man nods at Jamal on his way to the ATM. The officers remain nearby but chat quietly with a supervisor about non-incident matters. It is remarkable how quickly a room steadies when facts take the wheel. I collect my identification and slide the appointment printout into my folder. I tell the bridge I will complete the service in a private room once a neutral associate is assigned. Compliance designates Jamal for the handoff with a second associate for coverage. The regional thanks the lobby for patience and ends their share screen. The projector goes blank, leaving a faint rectangle on the wall like a stage after the show. 30 seconds. The manager tries one last gambit. She says, I raise my voice. The recording does not support that. The bridge declines the claim and reminds her that statements should align with the log. She returns to her desk, small, contained by process she tried to bend. The timer hits 0 in the edit. 10 minutes to turn a label into a lesson. No headline, no spectacle. Standards, cited by number. Systems, showing their memory. People, protected for telling the truth. We move to the side office to finish the day's business. The lobby returns to a bank. The case moves to audit. The side office is plain. A small table, 2 chairs, a glass wall that faces the lobby so nothing hides. Jamal brings the file and a clean notepad. A second associate joins to cover the desk. I set my folder down and rest my phone where the mic can hear everyone clearly. The bridge stays open. Regional operations leads. Compliance monitors and takes notes. Human resources joins quietly and listens. We start with service. Jamal confirms the purpose of the visit and the fund documentation. He reads back the tasks on the ticket. Add beneficiary, verify wire template, confirm address, print updated profile. The work is straightforward. It always was. Jamal moves through it with steady hands. He narrates each step for the log. He asks for consent before scanning. He waits for me to check each screen. It is what banking looks like when policy is followed. While he works, compliance speaks with the manager at the doorway. They are within sight and within earshot. Compliance requests her statement for the record. She offers a new version of events. The intercom was a precaution. The sign is normal. Compliance does not argue. They ask for dates and names. She cannot supply them. They thank her and ask her to return to the lobby until the review team arrives. Regional operations shifts the call to a short briefing. They outline immediate controls. Branch discretionary budget remains frozen. Supervisor calling rights are limited to a designated relief supervisor. Intercom fraud codes require 2 approvals until recertification. They schedule a recertification block for the district with classroom time and a live system drill. The dates go on the screen. No one is defensive. The tone is procedural. This is not a punishment ritual. It is a repair plan. Human Resources asks a narrow question about impact to pay. Incentives tied to discretionary metrics are on hold while the review runs. Base pay remains unchanged. HR posts a link to a support line for staff stress and a policy reminder about retaliation. They plan one-on-one check-ins with the team by the end of the week. It lands softly but clearly. Process protects staff as well as customers. I asked to mark 3 artifacts for audit priority: intercom audio, printer job history, and any edits to CRM entries after the incident began. Compliance confirms the legal hold includes those systems. They add a capture of the lobby projector session and the bridge recording. Evidence is preserved. No one in the room raises a voice. It does not need volume. It needs precision. Jamal completes the service steps. He prints the updated profile and reads the verification line. He asks me to confirm the wire template. I do. He places the papers in a clear sleeve and labels it with my initials and the time. He looks to the bridge and states that the appointment is complete. The record shows that the customer received service as scheduled after a delay. He does not editorialize. He does not need to. The facts carry the weight. Regional Operations asks me if I wish to add anything for the record. I keep it simple. I am here for standards. I will file a formal ethics referral so the team has a clean path forward. I acknowledge the steps taken today. I request that Jamal be recognized for adherence to policy and that he receive coverage if hours are shifted while the branch stabilizes. HR confirms the note is captured. The manager appears again at the doorway. She asks if the incident will appear on her file. Compliance answers directly. A finding will be made after the evidence review. For now, Access is limited. That is the extent. She asks to speak off the record. There is no off the record. The bridge reminds the room that recording remains active. I stand, collect the sleeve, and thank Jamal for precise work. He nods, a small gesture that reads like relief. On my way back to the lobby, I pause at the projector wall. The blank rectangle still shows a faint outline. It reminds the branch that systems keep memory. The regional voice returns for a final note. Training invitations will go out tonight. The branch will be audited next week with a focus on intake, signage, and intercom governance. This is not about blame, it is about alignment. At the edge of the lobby, a customer who watched the scene gives a quiet thumbs up to Jamal. The officers step back to their usual posts. The manager runs a card through a reader and stares at a restricted screen. She is learning a rule she tried to ignore. Authority is not the loudest person in the room. Authority is the system you can cite by number. I exit the office and let the door ease shut without a sound. The bridge remains live as I step to the counter to finish one last form. The lobby looks like a bank again. That is the point. Order without drama. Standards without spectacle. The audit will take it from here. The lobby feels quieter when we step out of the side office. Not empty, focused. Jamal returns to his station, an associate takes the next customer, and the officers resume a posture that says watchful, not tense. The bridge line remains open. Compliance asks if we are ready to close the incident summary. I say we are. Before we do, I place my folder on the counter and state my role for the record. I represent the board on service standards. I also serve as an ethics auditor for partner funds housed in this bank. I am the black CEO you labeled as a walk-in and flagged as fraud without verification. The manager shifts her weight but does not speak. The regional voice asks me to proceed. I keep it simple. First, access. Effective now, supervisory calling rights for the acting manager are revoked pending review. She will retain teller-level access only. This is not termination, it is control. The regional confirms the change and pushes a permission update. The manager's terminal pings and the supervisory panel grays out. No one cheers. It is not that kind of moment. Second, budgets. Freeze the branch's discretionary spend and incentive pool until the intercom and signage practices pass recertification. The regional says the request is granted. A new email slides onto the projector wall. Branch discretionary, frozen. Incentive calculations, pending review. The word sits on the screen like a seal. It does not need to be loud to be final. Third, records. Preserve all artifacts tied to this incident. CCTV from 15 minutes prior to my arrival through close of business. Intercom audio and code logs, printer job history, CRM notes and edit trails, email traffic regarding signage and fraud alerts. Compliance replies that the legal hold is live and the scope is extended to include chat transcripts on internal channels. Preserve all artifacts. That phrase closes the door on revisionist memory. I turn to Jamal. On the record, thank you for following the system. I recommend temporary lead coverage for him during training intervals and a spot bonus for correct use of CRM and chain of command under pressure. HR notes the request and asks for a written referral. I agree to file it by end of day. Jamal does not smile. He nods once. It is enough! The manager asks to speak to me privately. I decline. This is a process moment, not a personal one. She says she was protecting the team. Compliance asks her to show where protection is defined as confiscating identification without legal basis or issuing a fraud code without verification. She cannot. The regional rereads the steps on the projector. Verify appointment, verify identity, confirm with a second approver, then, and only then, label. The checklist is not a suggestion, it is the floor. A customer at the rope stanchion raises a hand. He says he watched 2 walk-ins go to private this morning. He looks tired of waiting and tired of the avoidance. The bridge thanks him and asks him to share names if he is comfortable. He is not required. He declines. That is fine. The data will speak. Q-logs already did. I ask the team to restore the lobby to standard signage. The taped sheet comes down. A printed placard with the correct policy replaces it. The difference is subtle. Clear fonts, a code line, a date. Systems leave clues. when they are real. They look boring. Boring is what you want in a rule. The officers request clarity on their role when a manager declares fraud. Compliance reads it from the SOP. Observe, isolate if there is an immediate safety risk. Do not seize identification unless law enforcement instructs. Do not remove a customer for asking to see policy. They nod. Training will cover it. A laminated quick card will go in each duty binder by Friday. Regional Operations schedules the recertification dates on the screen. 2 classroom blocks next week. 1 live drill with intercom and CRM. A final sign-off with compliance present. Attendance is not optional. The manager glances at the calendar and then at her shoes. She wants this to be a misunderstanding. The record says otherwise. That is the point of a record. I rest my palm on the counter and let the room breathe. No one lost their job in this room. Not today. What changed is who touches which switch and under what conditions. Power is the ability to set conditions and then check them against evidence. Power is the line that says serve booked appointments and the hold that says you may not label people because you feel like it. The bridge asks if there is anything further. One note, the fund meeting will convene next month to review community grants. This branch will be eligible after recertification. If they pass, they rejoin the pilot. If they fail, the pilot moves to a different site. That is not a threat, it is governance. Standards protect everyone, including the teams who meet them. We close the call. The projector goes dark. The lobby sounds like a bank again. Paper feeds. Keys click. Jamal calls the next customer by name. The manager logs a routine transaction and waits for approval from the relief supervisor. Consequence? In practice. I pick up my folder and my ID. On the way out, a woman near the door says thank you under her breath. I nod. This is not about me. It is about how a room behaves when numbers beat noise, when logs outrank labels, when the quiet sentence wins. Log everything, then fix what the log reveals. By late afternoon, the first confirmations land. An email from Regional Operations lists the audit team, arrival time, and scope. Intake, signage, governance, intercom protocol, CRM verification flow. The subject line includes the branch ID and today's timestamp. It reads like a flight plan, not a threat. That is good. You want procedures, not theatrics. I file the ethics referral. It is concise, incident summary, systems touched, people present, specific asks, preserve artifacts, review decision path, assess disparate enforcement. I attach the appointment printout Jamal made and a photo of the taped sign. I include 1 sentence at the end. This branch can meet standard with training and supervision. Do not confuse error with malice when the record is enough to teach. Compliance replies with a case number and a hold notice. The notice shows which servers are locked. Intercom audio, CCTV storage, email archive, printer jobs, CRM edit logs. It lists the retention window and the custodian of record. Legal is CCD. Everyone can see the chain. That visibility prevents stories from mutating overnight. HR posts a memo to the branch channel. No retaliation. Protected witness status for Jamal and any employee who provided on-system facts. They outline the reporting path if pressure appears off the clock. They add counseling resources and manager coverage while access is limited. It is plain language, not corporate fog. Plain language travels. I send a short note to Jamal's inbox. Thank you for citing the system when it counted. Expect a check-in about temporary lead coverage during training windows. He answers with 2 words. Understood, sir. The formality is not the point. The habit is. He followed a habit that protects the room. Operations activates a rule set change before close. Fraud intercom codes now require a second approver on a different login, and the system blocks the call if the CRM appointment field is populated for the customer in front of you. If the appointment exists, the alert routes to a different queue marked service conflict. Fewer labels, more fixes. You can feel the architecture correcting for human impulse. The manager's access shows the new footprint. Teller queues and basic functions remain. Supervisory panes are grayed out. She processes routine items under oversight. Does she like it? Probably not. Is she punished? Not yet. She is contained by guardrails that should have been in place. Guardrails are not insults, they are seatbelts. Before I leave the district, I stop by another branch on the route. Same signage, laminated, with a policy code and a revision date. The staff references SOP numbers without being asked. It is boring in the way that reassures investors and customers alike. That is the goal. Boring systems that work. My phone buzzes with a community partner text. Heard you were at Midtown. Everything okay? I reply with the only line that keeps trust. Standards were enforced, training scheduled, funds are secure. We do not torch partners for a bad hour if a better year is possible. But we do freeze levers until the floor is rebuilt. Evening brings a brief call with the board secretary. I walk through the incident, the freeze, the training calendar, and the plan to reevaluate the branch for our pilot after recertification. She asks if I recommend pulling the grant pipeline now. Not yet. Hold the discretionary. Keep the core intact. Tie re-entry to test results, not apologies. She agrees. Governance is a staircase, not a mood. I draft a short internal note for our team: what happened, what we did, what's next. 3 lines on lessons. Never escalate labels without verification. Never confiscate identification without law. Always speak in numbers when stakes rise. We publish it to our playbook so the next manager in a different city can win the same 10-minute fight with less drama. Before lights out, one more alert pings. The audit calendar invite wants the branch, floor plan, camera angles, and intercom hardware diagram. They will rehearse the scenario with role swaps. Manager as associate, associate as manager, officer as observer. People learn fast when they see how a move looks from the other chair. This was not a spectacle, it was a correction. The bank keeps the customer, the staff keeps their base pay, the process keeps its integrity, and a young associate learns that telling the truth on system is not career suicide, it is how careers start. Power is not how loud you say no. Power is how cleanly you say yes to a standard and then make the room match the sentence. Tomorrow, the emails will turn into checklists, the checklists into drills, and the drills into habit. That is how a branch unlearns a reflex and earns its way back onto a pilot. That is how you protect the fund, the customer, and the team in a single move. A week later, the audit van pulls up 5 minutes early. No drama, just clipboards and laptops. The district trainer sets up in the same side office. The projector lights the wall again, this time with a calm agenda. Intake, intercom governance, CRM verification, escalation tree. Jamal has a new badge sleeve that reads acting led. It is temporary and earned. He looks tired in the way good work makes you tired. We run the drill from both angles. Scenario 1, a booked customer arrives with a mismatch on the profile. The associate checks the CRM, confirms the ID, flags the data inconsistency, and routes to service conflict, not fraud. 2 approvals, quick and neat. The timer overlay in the training video shows 3 minutes from hello to resolution. Scenario 2, a true bad actor test. The intercom code now requires 2 logins, a reason dropdown, and a verifier who is not the originator. The room watches the path light up. Nobody can one-button a label anymore. The manager stands in the associate role today. She reads the checklist, follows the script, and says policy numbers out loud. The trainer corrects a step, and she takes the correction. HR watches her posture, not as a trap, but as data. Willingness to adjust is a sign. Resistance is a different sign. For now, she stays in teller duty with a recert date on the calendar. Her pay is steady, her reach is limited. That is what control looks like. Customer traffic continues during training blocks. The relief supervisor floats to approve things the manager cannot. It is a little slower, it is a lot clearer. People can tell when a bank knows its own rules. They can tell when a team is not winging it. The taped sign is gone. A clean placard sits in its place with a code, a revision date, and a link for customers to read the policy online. It blends into the room the way fire exits do. Comfort by design. Midday, the community liaison drops by. She does not ask for a show. She asks for a status. Regional operations gives it straight. Budget freeze remains until the district passes recertification. Private banking screening is back on with verification requirements. Intercom codes are guarded by two-person integrity. Complaints route to a shared mailbox monitored by compliance, not a single manager. The liaison nods and takes copies for the quarterly folder. She needs to tell a neighborhood board that the bank tightened its seams. Now she can. I meet Jamal between customers. I ask what landed as the most useful tool. He says two things without hesitation: the second approver on intercom, and a laminated quick card at every station with the three questions. Which policy, applied to whom, where is it documented? He taps the card lightly. It is a small object that represents a large idea. Say the rule by number, not by mood. We run one last drill, the hard one. A customer challenges a decision in front of a line. The script has the associate lower the volume, invite to a side space, read the policy, and offer a path that serves the purpose without bending safeties. The line watches how standards and de-escalation can live in the same body. It is not perfect, it is better. Better is how you win trust back. By late afternoon, compliance signs the branch's training completion. Not a pass yet, but a green light to continue serving with controls. The freeze stays until the district class finishes next week. It is a staircase. Each step holds your weight. The branch is back in the pilot queue under conditions, fail a control, and the freeze extends. Meet the controls, and the hold lifts. The rule is plain, the rule is fair. I file a short addendum to my ethics referral. No new allegations, just a record of who trained, who led, and who corrected mistakes on the floor. I flag Jamal's performance for a bonus tied to adherence, not heroics. HR responds with a slot in the next lead cohort. He will get formal training instead of just a pat on the shoulder. That is how you retain a truth teller. Before I leave, I stand once more where the projector washed the wall last week. The faint outline is still there if you squint. It is a small reminder that the room can turn into a classroom at any time. That matters more than any apology speech. The bank is a service utility. The way you prove it is by letting the system speak when a person tries to shout. On the sidewalk, a customer I recognize from the day of the incident holds the door for an older man and smiles. The temperature of the place feels different, quieter, not because nothing can go wrong, but because something will catch it when it does. Guardrails, checklists, second eyes, boring words. Life-saving tools? Power did not slam on a desk here. Power wrote down a process and made the room match it. The black CEO moment was not a spectacle, it was a hinge. On one side, labels. On the other, logs. We chose logs. Now the branch earns its way back minute by minute, customer by customer, number by number. And when the audit closes, the story will read the same as it does today. Because we preserved the tape. Because we froze the budget. Because we promoted the person who told the truth. 2 weeks out, the findings letter arrives with a case number and 3 pages of facts. It is not a narrative, it is a ledger. Event timeline, system checks, human decisions. The first page confirms what the room already knew. No policy authorizes holding a customer's identification without consent or legal basis. The intercom fraud code requires 2 approvals and a verification step. Neither occurred. The sign labeled guests only was created locally 20 minutes before the incident without an approval record. Those 3 lines drive all the remedies that follow. The letter assigns responsibility by function, not personality. Intake failed at the manager level. Verification failed at the supervisor gate. Intercom governance failed at configuration. The remedy list is specific. The district will deploy 2-person integrity for all alert codes and enforce a hard block when a booked appointment exists. Signage will be locked to corporate templates with a version number. Printers will watermark ad hoc signs for 30 days so auditors can spot improvisation at a glance. The CRM will surface appointment notes in bold on every screen where a label could be applied. The point is not to blame. The point is to design the next mistake out of the room. Human Resources delivers its piece in 2 lines. The manager remains employed with pay intact, reassigned to teller duty at a different branch after recertification. A final written warning sits on file tied to misuse of process and failure to verify. If she passes recert and delivers clean quarters, the warning ages out per policy. If not, the pathway is clear. Accountability with the door back to standard if she walks it. Jamal's entry is shorter and better. Acting-led coverage continues during training windows. A bonus tied to correct use of CRM and escalation tree hits the next payroll. He is enrolled in a lead cohort with coursework on intake, queuing, and coaching under stress. He did not win a medal, he got a lane. People who keep records clean should get lanes. Operations ships a new dashboard to regional and branch leads. It is a daily ethics panel that shows 3 dials, intercom codes by category, signage changes by source, and appointment conflicts resolved without labels. The goal is not to hunt. It is to see drift before drift becomes a habit. When a branch spikes on any dial, the system pings a coach before customers feel it. Quiet power rendered as 3 quiet charts. Community Relations asks for a statement for the neighborhood board. We keep it to 4 sentences. A service incident occurred. Evidence was preserved. Controls were tightened. Staff completed training and returned to standard operations under oversight. The board does not need drama. They need assurance that the bank earns its spot on a city block. We bring the laminated quick card to the meeting. People remember objects. 3 lines on plastic can out-argue an hour of speeches. I meet the regional in a conference room that overlooks the street. We talk about the pilot. The freeze on discretionary spending can lift after the district finishes recert next week. Private banking screenings will continue with the 2-person rule. The pilot's funding remains in place but moves to a quarterly review until the dial stays green for 90 days. That is not punishment. That is stewardship of other people's money. We close the loop on the phrase that started this arc. Preserve all artifacts. The legal hold expires only after the audit closes and the appeal window ends. Council signs off. Compliance documents the chain. IT certifies that the records are intact. It sounds dry because it is. Dry is what you want when you are building trust. On my way out, I stop at the branch lobby one more time. The temporary placard is gone. In its place, a permanent sign with the policy code and a QR that links to the customer site. A woman at the rope reads it on her phone. She nods, then looks up when Jamal calls her name. He does not play the hero. He runs the process. That is enough. Power did not need a headline here. It needed a checklist and the will to enforce it. I did not have to raise my voice. I had to raise the standard and make the room see it. The tape exists. The dials now glow. The fund stays secured. And if the day ever tilts again, the architecture will catch it sooner. That is the promise. Not perfection, guardrails, logs, second eyes. The branch earned another chance. The system earned a little more of the city's trust. 30 days after the findings letter, the district finishes recertification. No confetti, a memo, a schedule, a green check beside each module, intake, intercom governance, CRM verification, escalation tree. Regional operations sends a 1-line update to the branch channel. Controls met. Oversight continues. Discretionary freeze lifts in phases tied to weekly ethics dials. The projector does not come back on. It does not need to. People can feel the room holding its own weight. I meet the regional people in a conference room at headquarters. We review 3 charts from the new ethics panel. Intercom codes drop to baseline. Signage edits come only from corporate templates with version numbers. Appointment conflicts resolve in service, not labels. We agree to lift the freeze to 50% with a checkpoint in 2 weeks. If the dials stay green for 90 days, full lift. If a dial spikes, the freeze snaps back without debate. It is not a threat. It is a pre-written move. HR closes the loop on people. The manager passes recert for teller duty and transfers to a different site with a relief supervisor assigned. A final written warning stays on file for a year. Jamal's status changes again. Temporary lead moves to acting assistant manager with a development plan, a mentor, and a defined lane. His bonus hits, not for heroics, but for using the system when it mattered. He thanks me with the same small nod. He is not performing a win, he is doing a job. Community Relations invites us to a neighborhood board meeting in a school auditorium. No stage lights, a folding table, printed agendas. I bring the laminated quick card and a 1-page version of the ethics panel. When questions come, I do not tell the story. I cite the numbers, 1 incident, evidence preserved, controls hardened, staff retrained, budget unfrozen in phases. The board chair asks about retaliation risk for employees who speak up. I point to the HR memo, the protected witness status, and the escalation path that bypasses local managers. Then I say it plain: we reward people who keep records clean. We do not punish them for pressing the right button. Back at the branch, small design changes keep landing. ID retention now requires a law enforcement case number field that must be populated before a hold can even be discussed. Fraud codes force a reason and a second approver on a separate login. The system blocks the code if a booked appointment exists. A link appears when someone hovers over a rule. It opens the exact SOP line. The system teaches in the moment. That is how you scale calm. A woman I recognize from the first day comes in with her mother. She points to the permanent placard with the policy code and scans the QR to the customer site. She reads, shrugs, puts her phone away, and smiles at the teller. That shrug is the goal. Confidence without spectacle. Understanding without a speech. I stop by Jamal's station between customers. He shows me a binder he built. It holds 3 checklists and a simple flow map taped inside the cover. He says it is for new hires and for bad days when people forget. He did not ask permission to make it. He made it because the room needed it. I tell him what matters. Say the number. Follow the map. Back your team when they do both. The district trainer does one last walkthrough in the afternoon. She spot checks, signage, listens to an intercom test, and scans the CRM for appointment flags. She signs and leaves. No findings. The quiet click of a pen cap closing a chapter. At sunset, I brief the board secretary. The pilot stays in place with quarterly checkups tied to the ethics dials. The branch will host a community office hour once a month where customers can ask to see policy on paper with a real person at the table. It is boring by design. Boring earns trust. Before I step out, I stand where the projector once washed the wall. There is no glow now, just a faint rectangle you can barely see. The lobby sounds like a bank. Paper feeds, keys click. A child asks for a sticker. A teller laughs and hands one over. The manager on duty approves a transaction by the book. Jamal coaches a new hire in a low voice. None of this is cinematic. All of it is the point. I leave one sentence with the regional as we shake hands. Keep the dials public to your teams. Numbers train culture. Stories tempt spin. She nods. She understands the difference. The black CEO moment did not end with a speech. It ended with a system that makes the next bad decision harder to execute. We did not torch the branch. We rebuilt its guardrails. We did not chase apologies. We wrote checklists. We did not reward noise. We promoted the person who told the truth on the system. Standards protect everyone. That is not a motto, it is a setting, and it is now live. Quarter's end brings the pilot review. We meet in a plain conference room with a screen, a clock, and a stack of printouts. The agenda is short. Ethics dials, customer outcomes, control exceptions, funding decision. Regional operations sits across from me with compliance, HR, and community relations dialed in. Jamal joins for the first 10 minutes to present the branch's side of the numbers. He is not there to perform, he is there to report. He walks the panel through 3 charts. Intercom alerts, green for 60 straight days, 0 mislabels, 2 service conflict routes resolved in under 5 minutes each. Signage, no local edits. All templates pulled from corporate with version stamps. Appointment conflicts, 97% cleared at intake, 3% rescheduled with customer consent documented in CRM notes. He does not pitch or add color. He cites, pauses, and answers questions with SOP references. HR thanks him and releases him back to the floor. He leaves a laminated copy of the quick card behind like a calling card for the room. Compliance takes the next slot. Findings closed. Legal hold lifted. Artifacts archived per retention. They highlight one quiet save last week. A teller hovered over a fraud code, saw the CRM banner showing a booked appointment, and the system blocked the label. The teller routed service correctly. That single event justified the architecture changes. The room nods. This is what controls look like when they earn their keep. We review the exception log. 2 signage stands went missing for a day during cleaning. The system flagged the absence because the QR scan count dropped to 0. Replacement confirmed. One supervisor tried to approve an intercom code from the same terminal as the originator. The dual login rule rejected it. Coaching delivered. No customer harm, no drift. Community Relations presents neighborhood feedback. Fewer complaints, a few compliments. One board asked for a policy walkthrough on site, which the branch hosted with printouts and live screens. Attendance numbers are modest. That is fine. Processes do not need applause. They need to be visible when asked. Decision time. I state the fund's position in 4 lines. The freeze lifts fully if ethics dials remain green for another 30 days. Pilot funding continues this quarter with a mid-cycle check. The branch rejoins the community grant pipeline on a probationary status keyed to controls, not personalities. Any spike on the dials triggers an automatic review and a temporary hold. No speeches, just conditions. Regional accepts the terms and adds a commitment. District-wide, the laminated quick card will be standard at every station by month's end. The 2-person integrity rule for intercom codes becomes permanent policy with audit trails visible to branch leads. The policy site will get a public-facing page explaining how appointment flags prevent mislabeling. Transparency is not a press release. It is a URL with the rule in plain text. We close the meeting with aftercare. HR confirms Jamal's acting title converts to assistant manager once he completes the lead cohort and passes a scenario exam. They also confirm that the manager involved has met expectations at her new site under close supervision with no incidents. If that holds, the warning ages out per policy next year. Correction, not spectacle. A branch culture can improve without humiliation rituals. Before we disperse, I add one note to the playbook. In any room, one person will eventually reach for a label because it feels fast. The system must make that reach slower than the act of checking the record. We codify the principle as a design rule. Verification first beats escalation first. It takes the line and writes it into the next sprint goals. I stopped by the branch after lunch to see the room that started this. No projector today, no crowd. A pair of seniors opens new accounts. A student cashes a check. The placard with the policy code sits near the rope with a clean QR. The manager on duty approves a transaction from a separate terminal as the dual approval design requires. Jamal spots a new hire reading the quick card aloud and nods once. Then he turns back to his screen. Work, not theater. On my way out, I record a short debrief for our own team's library. What we learned, what we changed, what we measured. I include the artifact list for training, intercom audio, CRM flags, printer logs, CCTV, email trails. I say the quiet sentence again because it belongs in every module. Preserve all artifacts. Then I add the counterpart that kept this branch from losing its future. Promote the person who tells the truth on system. Power did not arrive wrapped in outrage. It arrived as a checklist, a lock on the wrong lever, and a calendar invite that people actually attended. The black CEO label in the headline got attention. The standards kept it. That is the difference between a moment and a model. We did not chase a viral clip. We built a room where the next 10-minute crisis dies in 5 because someone looks at the log before touching the mic. The fund stays in place. The branch stays in the pilot. The city gets a bank that remembers how to be boring in the best way. And the sentence that started this arc keeps doing work, whether anyone quotes it or not. Log everything. Then fix what the log reveals. 60 days after the pilot review, the change stops feeling like a project and starts feeling like the way the bank works. The ethics dials run as a morning ritual alongside cash counts and ATM checks. The laminated quick card sits at every station and no one jokes about it anymore. It is simply there. Like the pen on a string and the rope stanchions, ordinary on purpose. Regional operations rolls out the guardrails district-wide. The intercom system now opens with a verification first screen. A teller cannot even see the alert codes until the CRM confirms whether an appointment exists and the ID fields match. If something is off, the screen routes to service conflict and offers a script that lowers the volume without lowering the standard. Training calls it the pause that prevents the headline. The numbers call it a drop in mislabels to near zero. Compliance ships a quarterly scenario pack. Branches rehearse edge cases during slow hours with headsets on and keyboards live. A customer with a nickname that differs from an ID. A name collision where two profiles share a last name and zip code. A power outage that knocks a printer offline and tempts someone to hang a homemade sign. Each drill ends the same way. Say the policy by number. Document the decision. Keep the tape. The repetition is deliberate. Habits win or lose the room, not speeches. Human resources closes their loop too. The protected witness language graduates from a memo to a policy with a code and an appeals path outside the branch. Jamal's title updates in the directory. Acting assistant manager becomes assistant manager, contingent on a final scenario exam that tests not just his knowledge of the rule, but his coaching under pressure. He passes. He does not post about it. He prints a new quick card for new hires and moves on. Community Relations launches a monthly office hour in the branch lobby. Folding table, 2 chairs, a binder with the same policies customers see on the website. People trickle in with questions about wire holds and appointment timing. Sometimes the questions are really about trust. The staff answers with dates, codes, and links. The room does not need big statements, it needs small confirmations that stack. The former manager calls me once, not to argue, to ask how to rebuild trust at her new site. I tell her the truth, say the number, follow the map, let the record talk when your instinct wants to label. She says she understands. I hope she does. She is still employed. She still draws base pay. What changes now is the speed at which her decisions meet evidence. On the fun side, we do our own audit of the pilot's partners. We pull a sample of transactions that touched intercom or signage and trace them from intake to resolution. We look for red flags that do not belong in a service room. Gaps close where they once would have widened. The cost of the guardrails was real in time and software, but the savings show up quietly. Fewer escalations, shorter calls, less staff turnover from bad nights that should never have happened. At quarter's end, the final review reads clean. The freeze lifts fully under a maintenance clause tied to the ethics dials. The board signs off on the branch rejoining the grant pipeline with a clause everyone can live with. If the dials spike for 7 days, funds pause automatically until the room steadies. It is not a threat. It is an if-then line in a standard that protects both sides. I walk the lobby one last time before the report goes to the archive. The permanent placard bears a policy code and a revision date in small print that only matters when it matters. A teller prints a profile update and slides it forward with steady hands. A customer scans the QR and nods. Jamal reviews a queue and redirects a walk-in to an associate with a seat in the quiet alcove. No one raises a voice. No one has to. This story was never about a dramatic firing or a viral clip. It was about whether a room could be trained to reach for the log before it reached for a label. It was about power that speaks in configurations and calendars, not volume. It was about protecting the staff who told the truth on system and setting a path for the ones who needed a map. The tape exists, the guardrails hold, the fund remains where it should be, serving the city that made the deposits in the first place. Standards protect everyone. That sentence sits under the glass now. The branch does not quote it. The branch runs it. The audit archive closes on a Tuesday afternoon. No ceremony. A digital signature, a timestamp, a case number. Compliance sends the final summary to legal, HR, regional operations, and the fund office. The note is 4 lines long and lands like a steady drum. Controls operating as designed. Training complete across district. No incidents of retaliation. Ethics dials stable 90 days. That is what the end of a story looks like when you build it out of checklists instead of speeches. I ask for one last walk through, not to test anyone, just to see the room with the pressure gone. The lobby reads different when standards are muscle memory. The permanent placard sits where a taped sheet once tried to pretend it was policy. The QR code leads to a page that cites the rule by number and revision date. A customer new to town asks about opening an account without an appointment. The associate points to the intake path and offers a same-day slot. No improvisation. No performative authority, just the map. Jamal meets me by the side office where the projector once turned the wall into a witness. He carries a slim binder that has already lost its crisp corners from use. Inside are the 3 questions and a 1-page decision tree he refined after 3 months of live work. Which policy? Applied to whom? Where is it documented? Then the branches. Appointment exists, route to service. Appointment absent, offer a booking. Risk indicators present, escalate with verification first. He tells me every new hire gets the card on day one and signs a line that says they know where the rule lives. Not a pledge, a receipt. Regional operations briefs me on a quiet improvement the district made without being asked. When the intercom code window opens, the system now displays the last 5 uses of that code in the branch with reasons and outcomes. It is hard to hit a button when you can see the last time it was used wrong and who had to clean it up. Culture can be taught by a sentence, but it sticks when software tells the same sentence back to you in context. The former manager's transfer holds. She works teller duty at a branch that did not live through our incident. Her numbers are solid and her interactions clean. HR's note is plain. She is on track. The warning remains until policy says it ages out. Accountability is not a scarlet letter. It is a ledger entry with a date that moves if you do the work. Community Relations hosts a small evening hour with neighborhood leaders in the lobby. No donuts, no banners, 3 chairs and printouts. A pastor asks, what happens if the dials spike again? I answer with the same words that have guided every move. The hold returns automatically. The review reconvenes. Training restarts. Funds pause until the dials calm. He nods. The trust is not in a promise. It is in the trigger that already exists. We talk about the fund. The pilot continues. Grants flow on schedule to organizations that do real work on quiet streets. We will check the bank again next quarter, not because we expect failure, but because good rooms stay good when somebody looks in at intervals and confirms the dials. Oversight is not suspicion, it is maintenance. Before closing time, a small moment lands that tells me the architecture is doing its job. A teller hovers a finger over an alert code, pauses as the verification screen prompts, reads the CRM banner, and routes the situation to service conflict instead. No intercom, no security. The customer sits in a side chair and leaves 20 minutes later with a corrected profile. I do not need to ask why it went right. The room itself answered the question. I stand at the threshold and think about the first 10 minutes that almost turned this place into a headline. They did not end in spectacle. They ended in settings. 2-person, integrity, corporate templates locked by version, quick cards laminated at every station, a rule that forces the pause where a label used to slip in, a sentence you can say with the lights on and the camera rolling. Log everything. The closing shift thanks customers as they file out. Jamal checks a queue, initials a training sheet, and sets a reminder to restock the quick cards after weekend traffic. The regional lead signs the nightly ethics dial snapshot and drops it in the shared folder. The wall where the projector once glared is just paint again. But the faint idea remains. Any room can become a classroom with one call. Any label can be slowed by one verification screen. Any branch can move from noise to numbers if someone is stubborn enough to ask the same 2 questions until the answers are written down. Which policy applied to whom? The rest follows. Epilogue is not a speech. It is a calendar invite and a settings panel that stays green. 90 days become 120. The pilot stops being a pilot and becomes policy. The laminated quick cards curl at the edges and get replaced. The ethics dials run with morning cash counts. The permanent placard with the policy code fades slightly in the sun and facilities orders a new one before anyone needs to ask. That is what success looks like in a service business. Nothing flashy, everything accounted for. We published the final note to our internal playbook. The Midtown branch is restored to full standing, discretionary budgets unfrozen, controls remain in perpetuity. The case packet joins the training archive with a simple title, Verification First, then Voice. Inside are the artifacts that turned a bad 10 minutes into a better year intercom audio, CRM flags, printer logs, CCTV stills, email trails. New hires will see them before they ever touch a live terminal. Not to gawk, to learn how rooms bend and how they get unbent. Jamal sits for one last conversation at the side office table where all of this pivoted. No spotlight. A direct deposit stub with a modest bonus and a letter naming him assistant manager sits between us. We talk about coaching under stress and how to anchor people to a rule when their pulse rises. He tells me his own 2-line talk track for new staff. Say the number, follow the map. He smiles once, small and tired in the way that means the job matters. The former manager, now a teller at a different site, sends a short note through HR. Thank you for the chance to relearn the work. Her metrics are clean. Her access will stay narrow until her supervisor signs 2 consecutive quarters at standard. That is not a punishment. It is a bridge you cross on foot. Accountability with a way back is what keeps good people in the field. Community Relations closes their loop with the neighborhood board. A 1-page handout, no slogans, shows the 3 dials and the rules that keep them honest. A pastor who asked hard questions early on nods at the plainness of it. He does not want an apology. He wants a mechanism. Mechanisms are trust in hardware. The fund's next grant cycle opens. Applications are screened, scored, and approved on time. A small arts program gets their wire. A food co-op expands a delivery route. A clinic adds Saturday hours. The bank is not the headline in any of those stories, and that is the point. Finance should be the floor, not the stage. I return once more to the lobby, to the glass and the printers and the rope stanchions. There is no projector today. Only a faint memory in the paint where a wall once became a witness. A child sticks a star sticker to her grandmother's wrist. A teller laughs. An officer holds a door for a courier and checks a delivery tag. Jamal reminds a new hire to read the quick card aloud before her first intake. Quiet power embedded. For our own team, I record a closing clip for the library. 3 lines, same as always. Preserve all artifacts. Freeze the levers that do harm until the room relearns the standard. Promote the person who tells the truth on system. Then I add the 4th line that turned out to be the real hinge. Make the system slower to label than to verify. There is no revenge beat to offer you here. No flourish. The branch was not fired. It was reconfigured. Budgets froze until they earned thaw. Access shrank until it was safe to widen. A truth keeper moved up a rung. A manager stayed on, contained by guardrails and measured by quarters, not moods. If you came for spectacle, the work will disappoint you. If you came for a model you can lift and drop into your city, it is already in your hands. On the way out, a customer stops me and asks if I am the one from that thing that happened. I say I am here for standards. She says thank you, but the way she says it tells me it is not about me. It is about being able to point to a sign, scan a code, and hear an associate cite a rule by number with their voice steady. Power is not the person who can shout no the loudest. Power is the room that says yes to the right thing because the design made it easy and visible. The last frame is ordinary on purpose. A bank that remembers how to be boring in the best way. No labels thrown to feel safe. Logs that make safety real. A 10-minute crisis that now dies in 5 because the system demanded proof and found it. Roll the credits if you want. Better yet, roll the settings out to the next branch. Standards protect everyone. Log everything, then fix what the log reveals.